the days following the sinking of the RMS Titanic, the world did not immediately understand what had happened. Please subscribe. There was no instant communication, no real-time updates, and no clear picture of the events in the North Atlantic. Instead, information traveled slowly through wireless messages, fragmented reports, and human accounts that were still being formed. At the center of this process were newspapers, the primary source of news for millions of people. When the first reports began to appear, they were not entirely accurate. Early headlines suggested that the Titanic had encountered trouble, but that all passengers were safe. These reports reflected the limited and sometimes misleading information that was available at the time. Without confirmed details, newspapers had to rely on partial messages and assumptions, which led to a wave of confusion. This initial misunderstanding created a unique moment in media history. Readers woke up to headlines that seemed reassuring, only to later discover that the reality was far more serious. As new information arrived, newspapers had to quickly update their stories, shifting from calm reports to urgent, dramatic coverage. This transition was not just about correcting facts, it was about reshaping how the entire event was understood. As the truth became clearer, the tone of newspaper coverage changed significantly. Headlines grew larger, language became more intense, and the scale of the disaster began to emerge. The story of the Titanic was no longer just about a ship in trouble. It was about a major event with widespread impact. Newspapers across different countries began to focus on various aspects of the story, from the number of survivors to the sequence of events during the sinking. One of the key challenges for newspapers was verifying information. In an era without modern communication tools, confirmation was difficult. Reports often came from different sources, each with its own perspective and level of accuracy. This led to inconsistencies, where different newspapers published different versions of the same event. For readers, this meant navigating a complex and sometimes confusing flow of information. Despite these challenges, newspapers played a crucial role in shaping public understanding. They collected information, organized it, and presented it in a way that people could follow. They also provided a platform for survivor accounts, which added a human dimension to the story. Through these accounts, readers could gain insight into what had happened, not just as a sequence of events, but as a series of personal experiences. The visual presentation of the news was also important. Front pages were designed to capture attention, with bold headlines and dramatic language. The Titanic story dominated these pages, reflecting its significance. For many readers, opening a newspaper during those days meant encountering a story that felt both distant and immediate at the same time. Another important aspect of newspaper coverage was the speed at which it evolved. Each new edition brought updates, corrections, and additional details. The story was not static, it was developing in real time, shaped by the arrival of new information. This dynamic process created a sense of ongoing discovery, where the full picture of the disaster was gradually revealed. Looking back, the reaction of newspapers to the Titanic disaster highlights the challenges of reporting major events. It shows how information can change, how early reports can differ from later ones, and how media plays a role in shaping public perception. It also reminds us that understanding an event is often a process, not an immediate outcome. More than a century later, these early newspaper reports remain an important part of the Titanic's history. They provide insight into how the event was experienced by those who were not there, how information was shared, and how the story reached a global audience. In the end, the newspapers did more than report the disaster, they helped define it. They turned scattered information into a shared narrative, connecting people across different places and perspectives. The sinking of the RMS Titanic was not just a moment in time, it was a story that unfolded across pages, headlines, and human understanding. A story first told in uncertainty, then in clarity, and remembered ever since.